Keys to the Commonwealth, a podcast where we share the real stories of local community members who are using real estate to build personal wealth, along with tips and tricks from professionals across the industry. And now, your host, Landry Fields.
Welcome back, everyone, to another Keys to the Commonwealth podcast. I'm excited for my conversation today with a Lexingtonian, Henry Clay grad, UK grad. I spent some time as the Wildcat or Scratch. I'm not sure which
Wildcat.
one. Wildcat, there we go. But it is my pleasure. We're going to talk all things kind of urban service boundary, growth of Lexington, the commercial side of things happening downtown, and so forth with our conversation today. So please help me welcome Ross Boggess to the Commonwealth studio today. Ross, how you been?
Thanks, Landry. This is awesome.
Yeah.
This is so cool.
Well, I appreciate it. Thanks for coming on the show. He is also a part of the DevelopLex podcast itself. He's been in kind of in and around the real estate for many, many years now here in Lexington specifically, but also a part of the DevelopLex podcast, which suits a little bit of a different audience than ours, which is pretty cool. So I've been enjoying listening to your all's episodes. Some of the things, people you've had on and so forth like that on a kind of a bigger scale investing side of things in some respects. So how's that been?
Oh, it's been fun. Same sort of mission that y'all have of just telling the stories of how people have built stuff. And really it's neat to talk about.
Yeah. And you all have had some cool people on there telling the stories, like you said, of like just areas of Lexington or, people who saw the future in foresight of what Lexington could be in certain areas and stuff like that. So that's been cool. Yeah,
absolutely. We've been blessed with some really cool guests, really cool stories, and it gives a little bit more of a behind the scenes look at some of the more iconic projects around town.
Yeah.
So we enjoy it, and give us a listen.
Yeah, that is good. Check them out for sure. So you've been around real estate and stuff in different capacities or some different groups and stuff like that over several years. So hop back in the door and tell me, how did you get into real estate to begin with here?
Yeah, so it all started with 4th of July in Greenville, South Carolina.
Okay.
My brother was doing an internship down there.
Okay.
I've grown up in Lexington, just traveled regionally around, loved cities, loved construction for a long, long time. But going to Greenville, you just see what a downtown is, and it has life, it has free parking. It has.
Do we have free parking anymore? I mean, there's some places downtown
we
Lexington.
got some free parking. There's plenty of parking in Lexington.
Yeah.
It's just what you're willing to pay for it.
Yeah.
So, but Greenville, South Carolina is a well-designed city. They had
It's very Lexington-like, if I remember. I've not been there.
A similar caliber.
Maybe through it, but
a similar stature. Doesn't have too many high rises. Very comparable to what Lexington has. But the neat thing about it is there's this life and vibrancy to downtown that everybody goes there on the weekends. They brag about having over 100 event days per year.
Oh, wow.
It's normal for Main Street to be shut down. And it's something that people love when it is, because they know that there's something going on.
Interesting.
So it's a really cool mindset to a city, but that's what got me into city planning.
Yeah.
So went to University of Kentucky, studied geographic information systems as well as community leadership development. So CLD is basically city planning, talking about rural sociology, urban renewal things, and really all the things that go
just cities on a grand big picture scheme side of thing.
Yeah. And then
because kind of like I think it's from Alice in Wonderland. I love that statement with the cat where she's like trying to figure out which road to go down, right?
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about here? Mm-hmm. And she's like, which road do I go down, or something along those lines? I'm paraphrasing. He's like, well, where are you trying to go? And she's like, well, I don't really know. And then he's like, well, it doesn't really matter which road you go, type of thing. And that's the kind of case, I think, the point your major is, and that point is, you still have to have an overall arching vision for a place. Otherwise, it just kind of happens, and who knows where it goes. And, if you don't have a vision or know where you're going, how do we get there, and who knows what it could look like.
Yeah, and that's kind of knowing what I saw in Greenville, and knowing that Lexington could be something bigger and do some really neat things. Just started getting plugged in with things and taking what I was learning in the classroom and going downtown and offering to help and do whatever I can, both the companies and different organizations around. And we got...
And as we know, downtown's changed quite a bit in the last, 10, 15 years, something like that. A lot happening right now, which is what I kind of prompted you coming on the show, because you have a more insight into some of these things with some of your past accomplishments and careers and so forth like that. So Actually, which leads me to another thing about parking. So one of the first things I want to talk about is obviously, you were a part of, you can speak to however much you want of that, of the new, what is it called? What is it being called? Do we have a name for it?
There's 17 acres up across High Street from Rupp Arena.
Yep. The big parking lot.
The Rupp RFP is what a lot of people have been calling it.
And there's going to be a residential, multi-use commercial and residential type of condo structure. So let's talk about a little bit about that, kind of like the development of that, as well as, again, bleeding back to parking. Like, where's all the parking going to go? Is what everybody I keep talking to about it. Like, this is going to be great. And they're like, oh, where are we going to park now? And I'm like, I don't know.
Well, you all will not have to worry about parking there. Lincoln Webb has done a really good job designing it around. So there's going to be residential components on the west side, closer to the R1 style single family homes on Marino and Madison.
Okay.
That's going to then scale up and crescendo towards Lex Live, towards the Hyatt.
Okay.
Where there's going to be hospitality, ground floor retail restaurant, entertainment venue, and then
grocery as well. I think I heard
grocery is going to be there up at the corner of Broadway and Maxwell. So where the farmers market has been historically.
Okay. Across from Wildcat Liquor there.
Right across from Wildcat Liquor, right across from Bourbon House.
Wildcat Liquor's got to be ecstatic.
I hope they know what's coming. It's going to be a really, really neat concept there. But
you might need to do a facelift on the store. But yeah, no, that's awesome. So keep going there.
Yeah. So, but within all of this, there is planning and zoning codes that require how much parking you have. So for residential, that's going to be something with the floor plate ratio.
Yeah.
Hospitality, it's a 1 per suite. And all of that is protected. So one of the conditions that the Lexington Center Corporation, who is the folks that put out the bid process for the RFP, they had asked that 2,000 parking spaces be preserved for their uses. We have a convention center that has been rebuilt and is designed to host massive groups of people. And
it's about wrapped up, I believe, right? It's pretty close.
I think so. I think their last stage is that the catwalk staircase up, the social staircase in between the Hyatt and the Rupp Arena. And I think I saw them taking down the fences.
Okay.
So
really,
that will be an exciting thing. And a lot of what's going on is trying to connect the central business district predominantly towards the Main Street corridor, up into what's now going to be the entertainment district through Rupp Arena, up towards High Street.
Yeah.
So there's going to be plenty of parking. I think there's 5 parking structures planned that Lincoln Webb has, but there's I think close to a net new like 1,600 parking spaces on top of the 2,000 that LCC is going to be using. So there is a lot of nested parking between the apartments.
Perfect.
A lot of parking that's going to be the easiest way in or out, no matter what corridor you're coming from for a Rupp event, and it will be there.
I mean, it's exciting. I mean, it really is exciting. I'm sure it's even more exciting you having been kind of a part of different aspects of this, or seeing the initial concepts to either it's now happened or it is now officially got the green light to happen type of thing, and so forth. So, I mean, talk to me about some of your experiences with that. Again, kind of back to your college days of envisioning, seeing things, and now they're kind of coming to fruition, and some of the maybe ups and downs or some of the things that you kind of learned along the way with that.
Oh, yeah. It's the cool part about being a developer is taking virgin land or something that isn't the highest and best use and turning it into what it could be, dreaming about what you've seen in other cities and taking it back home. So a lot of what we've designed are things that the Lincoln Webb team saw in other cities and said, well, why don't we bring this to Lexington? So they did a great job figuring out things, taking things like 5th and Broadway down in Nashville, one of Nashville's new developments right across from the Bridgestone. Has amazing ground floor retail restaurant, things that are destination, but also things that are everyday lifestyle. Like,
I did see that. I think it popped. I feel like it popped up overnight because I remember going down there shortly after COVID was kind of winding down. I was like, where did that come from? I don't remember.
So that's where when they built the Music City Center on the other side of the Bridgestone, that kind of replaced what was there for the I think it was a Renaissance or Radisson was there and had a connected convention center. They demolished that, built underground parking, and they have some really cool uses above ground. So residential, retail, it's all there.
I mean, downtown's going to be a destination itself. I mean, and it never really was, except for maybe, as far as going either living or trying to even stay there outside of like, there's just like you got UK basketball games, or maybe there's a concert here and there. But I mean, there really is a lot to offer now with downtown. You got the expansion over into the Manchester area, which maybe you have insights in some more things. I know there's a hotel that's supposed to be going in there and so forth, but
yeah, you'll see. And downtowns are meant to be a place where everybody's welcomed, everybody gathers. It's the central hub that everybody that lives in that town knows that that's where you get to celebrate massive accomplishments and also get to protest to make a point. So it's everybody's neighborhood. And that is just the magic of what downtowns should be. And you see that downtowns are being recreated in the suburbs of, say, Norton Commons, where people have everything they need in a walkable distance, or the Summit here in Lexington. It's what a downtown used to be, just transplanted into whether it be cheaper land or just more available land, because it takes a lot of coordination to get downtowns working the way that downtowns are meant to be at the highest best use, because there's a lot of different owners, a lot of different stakeholders. But that's the magic of downtown development. That
and the beauty
I love.
of downtown Lexington too is obviously with the original planning of making the interstate go around the city. Obviously that is an intentional thing that I know they did decades ago. But to that point, is made downtown, now that downtown's getting all these special things added with the convention center renovation. There's going to be the park, obviously. I assume that's probably the next thing on that portion of that. Is that starting
Town
soon
Branch Park, I think, is tracking sometime in 2025 for delivery.
Oh, for actual delivery. Yeah, I guess that would probably take a lot less undertaking than because there's not as much.
It's a massive undertaking.
Oh, yeah, it's a massive undertaking, but it's a lot less infrastructure in some respects, maybe. I guess I'm thinking because you're not building a ton of, different conversation, I guess, that I'm not probably an expert on there. But that being said, Lexington is really developing into downtown-wise into something super special because, again, the interstate's not just you don't have these high interstate overpass things going through different parts of downtown and stuff like that. And I mean, it really is going to be something. Once you're kind of seeing the big picture of where it's going, what it's going to be, and you're like, wow, that's just going to be. I don't think people realize how cool it's going to be.
Oh, it's going to be there. We have a lot of visionaries in Lexington, and the cool thing is, if we can get one or two people to say, I'm going to take lead, and get it done, we have a lot of great stuff in store for our city. We need to channel all of our energy towards one big focus, and I hope downtown is what people focus at, because we have so much we get to enjoy that I don't think we've realized that as a city, that so many cities are drooling over what we have. And
do you think we ever had like a tram thing maybe one day?
Well, funny thing is about trams, developers used to be the ones that really underwritten all of the streetcars. So when transportation was not common, where it wasn't common for people to have their own car, to get people to your development, developers would have streetcars. So there was a developer in Lexington that ran the first trolleys. Up in Detroit, a lot of the automotive corporations would be the ones that would get their employees from the plant, from their office to these lifestyle amenities. And that was so Greenville, South Carolina, going back to that, Duke Energy was the ones that really ran the public transit there. Public transit and developers have always been very closely tied. And
interesting.
And
do they still have those? There used to be trolleys on wheels downtown. I just remember that. That's not a thing anymore here in Lexington, is there?
We have free trolleys that run from the Lextran Center out to the airport, out to Keeneland.
Oh, okay.
They're not true trolleys. They're not track trolleys, but they still are there. And it's quite impressive how much public transit and the ability to coordinate with public transit can lead towards the success of a development.
Do you think that could be like a intra type trolley system within downtown at some point, just kind of making our way between different points between Manchester to
that's been attempted,
Thoroughbred Park and so forth?
I think it will have to be something that would include the students. There's a lot that if you create a circulating line, and I think it's been explored at one point to do something that goes from campus down to downtown, go to another thing like Red Mile where there's residential.
That's a good point.
And then pull people back around. That's there. But there's also a walkability perspective to downtown that people are willing to walk from Dillard's over to Dick's, over to Macy's, and back to Dillard's.
Yeah.
But don't want to park on the 300 block of East Main and walk over to the 200 block of West Main. So
that's a deeper sociology study right there on that, I guess.
So we have a lot of, and transportation is such a big thing, but also just making an interesting walk downtown where it's not just a destination, but there's a casual shoppingness to it, to where you have ground floor retail that you pass by, and it makes an interesting walk. It's one of those walkable principles of creating something that feels safe, feels interesting.
And then you have the park now. So we've got obviously Town and Branch Park, which, like I said, hopefully 2025 that'll be where the amphitheater is going to be a part of that, right? Correct. The outdoor amphitheater, which is me being a former kind of real music buff person, like it's very limited a music scene as far as Lexington goes. And that's been changed a little bit with the Borough opening, obviously. Manchester kind of reinvented itself with the music hall there, but like a little bit of a bigger venue. You pretty much went from Manchester venue to Rupp Arena, and there was really nothing in between there. So that's a different side conversation of I'm kind of excited about this amphitheater and having other available outdoor concerts downtown, which would be very cool. I don't know if people are aware of that, but...
Yeah, well, and Lincoln Webb even has an entertainment venue planned tentatively right now.
Okay.
Because they were finding that, like you were saying, you go to the Opera House, it maxes out about 900. You go to Manchester on a good day, they can pull some of their uses, like the bars, outside through the garage doors and be able to fit somewhere closer to 1,000, maybe a little bit north of that. But then you can't get anything until you hit the 5,000 floor cap for Rupp Arena.
Is that the floor with that? Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know what the
floor being the minimum that
that's what
makes sense to take.
I didn't know what the minimum was for that.
But so we have a big gap in the way that we have the interstate run through our town, not through in a way of downtown, but we have two major interstates, and then we have the Parkway.
Yeah.
There's so many travel routes that are coming through Nashville that would love to play in Lexington, and
but you really need that 2,000 to 3,000 type venue. Mm-hmm. Is there anything else you can speak to of that potential idea or in theory?
I know Lincoln Webb is looking at it for the entertainment venue, something that would get the theatrical that's typically going to Danville and EKU.
Yeah,
those performance centers are great.
Yeah.
But the Opera House, when you have something like Stomp come through, they have 3 trucks, and you can do a 1-truck show, something that's miniature in scale, or you can go all the way up to 3, which you see up on Broadway. And we just don't have a venue that has that structural capability to host the theatrical needs. So, but there's up and coming. There's the legend acts. Like think about the Eagles' 7th farewell tour that you're trying to something that at one point they're not going to be able to play Rupp Arena. But you have the up-and-comers, the legend acts, the comedy, and there's a lot of stuff that you can program out a venue with neat things that are meant for everybody. It's not just the country
But that
shows.
just brings more money and more for all the businesses in town. If there's more things for people to be coming and doing downtown, obviously, beyond Rupp Arena, beyond Opera House, and beyond, touring distillery type of scenarios. I mean, Manchester, let's switch to that gear a little bit. I mean, it wasn't that long ago. I was in my former music days taking those classic band pictures in front of like rusted old building kind of scenarios in the Manchester area. I mean, that's what it was. It was just an abandoned commercial type old dump site. And someone had, of course, the wherewithal to kind of say, hey, I think this could be something much bigger and much grander, or had a vision for it. And it's been very impressive to see what's been going on in that area.
The best thing the Distillery District did was label themselves as a district.
Yeah, that's a good
Whenever
point.
you can market yourself as a development and a destination, that's going to lead you to so much more success than just being, that's where there's a brewery and ice cream shop. No, that's the Distillery District, and people know it. So
like Louisville has a distillery district with a lot of much more famous distilleries, but
Urban Bourbon, that's what they did when they got some of those.
I'm not familiar with that one. Is that a new one?
No, Urban Bourbon is what they're labeling the bourbon strip up in Louisville, I believe.
Oh, okay, I see.
But you think about the No Lie, North Lime, that created so much success around it. You think about Sobro, south of Broadway in Nashville. When you have a marketing label with the development,
that's a good point.
So much more successful.
And that Manchester, you're right. North Lime kind of was like one of the first ones I can kind of point to that really was, as far as kind of turned the whole picture of what that area was and on its head and kind of updating it. And then you had the gray line added to that to kind of accentuate that whole area. But then, yeah, you're right. Manchester, I think, is in that process right now. And so we got a hotel that's going to be developed out there.
There's a hotel planned out there, and there's a lot of improvements coming to the actual distillery district. When you think about the Rick House area, there's a new owner that is committed to investing in that. Okay. But with the Town Branch Trail that the city's put through, that's going to have a lot of impact on what else could go out there. And
I'm just upset. I wanted Country Boy or somebody to put their brewery on top of that, where they had like a top floor bar type of thing, like they have in Cincinnati with the Rheingeist on top of that big building right there in Manchester, overlooking the city. I was like, that would have been awesome, but
call U-Haul.
I guess U-Haul unfortunately
owns it.
I'm hoping they don't turn it into just storage. That would seem like that would not fit there.
Yeah, but anyhow. And this may shift towards the next topic of the urban service boundary and what people are doing now, because when we have a strict urban service boundary, which for the most part is really solid, really good for building density, it's something that attracts these institutional investors to Lexington to invest here because they know there's always going to be a scarcity of housing, a scarcity of land that ensures returns, ensures value. Unlike a city that just keeps on growing out and out and out.
Phoenix,
Houston. we can probably name a couple. At Louisville. Think about it, they're basically down to E-Town now.
Yeah, it really is crazy.
The people that commute.
I think E-Town's going to explode.
Oh, E-Town's,
especially with the new plant going in there, stuff like that.
I've heard of a bunch of developers going down there for just single family R1 style housing. I think move over Georgetown as far as the fastest growing. I feel like that might be one of the next ones. Who knows? I'd be interested to know what their sewer capacities are, because that's one thing that Georgetown
people don't think about those things, right? The things that actually allow society to function on a normal aspect. I mean, we've talked about that a little bit off air in some respects with some different things, but yeah.
If you have sewer capacity, let some people know in Georgetown they'd love to be part of that.
But yeah, back to the urban service boundary. I mean, it's such a great thing, and it's as well as delicate in some respects, obviously, because it is what kind of helps make Lexington in a lot of ways. But at the same time, it does limit sometimes how quickly things grow. And so there is some give and take. There is some frustrations that go along with that. But I mean, what has your experience been with that, or seeing how people have kind of used that development wise? There's obviously some give and take there as far as, for future planning and how that has to kind of be factored into the equation, obviously.
Yeah, so the urban service boundary is a part of a larger package called a comprehensive plan. The comprehensive plan is looked at every couple of years, and the urban services boundary gets a lot of bad press when there's more to it. You look at our last plan called Imagine Lexington. It wasn't just that line. There was also Imagine Nicholasville Road. How can we build density there? How can we build some new uses that could possibly have light rail transit? Get out here to Nicholasville, get people back into town, and make it a pleasurable experience to use public transit. Do more than just say, hey, this is where you can build. Because even if we add acreage to the urban service boundary, that's not going to affect everything. That's just going to build a couple more homes that are stamped out.
It's just a temporary Band-Aid. Not Band-Aid, but it's not going to...
What we need as a city is the ability to finance creative plans that give people ownership. Condominiums are the new starter homes. That's the thing now. It's not, you don't get to have a Southland Drive starter home anymore the way that the post-war folks got to come home, start a family, start building a career at. It's condos. It's townhouses. You go to Charlotte, townhouses are the number one product type being built out there.
Really?
So
I could see that. It's the idea of owning a single family home. I mean, it's a great concept, but maybe it is, like you said, changed a little bit.
And it's sad that it's changed.
Yeah.
I personally hate condo association fees. It feels like rent. It feels like a black hole. But it also sucks when you get an assessment and you're like, but I didn't even cause that.
It changes the way you invest now too, though, from an investor's standpoint, obviously.
But I think what we need as a city is more about the willingness to finance things. Finance follows form follows finance all the time. So right now it's quite easy for something that has a residential component to get it through. Way easier than if you were to say to build a warehouse. And Lexington does need warehousing. We need jobs per acre. And that's one of the cool things about what the city's doing out by Coldstream, where the old chicken and poultry farm was, and the research center.
Sorry, where's Coldstream again?
Coldstream's out by the interstate, wedged in between Georgetown and Newtown.
Okay.
So Embassy Suites, if you follow the interstate towards the chord near like Georgetown Street.
Phasic Tipton area and stuff like that?
Other side of the interstate and other...
Okay.
I don't know how to describe it.
Citation,
Yes,
type of stuff, all that kind of, okay.
Exactly. Go past Citation, and the city has some acreage there that they're calling the Legacy Business Center.
Okay.
That's going to be massive. That was actually one of the things that when the last vote went through council to figure out if we're going to expand the urban service boundary, knowing that that land was still there was one of the things that shaped a couple votes.
That's coming up for vote of some kind here next year.
Yeah, the results should be published as a part of the comprehensive package beginning of next year.
Okay.
But we have some neat things, and they've crafted a neat business plan there of figuring out things that's not just materials storage, but things that are actually going to create jobs.
Yeah.
And that's what we need.
And that's what's coming. I mean, people are moving here. People are seeing the quality of life here. I mean, as an insurance agent, I can't tell you how many people I was like moving from California, moving from Chicago, moving from New York, moving, and I'll be like, why Lexington? Or, I had people that have like never been in the state of Kentucky before, and they're walking into their home they purchased sight unseen for the first time they've been in the state of Kentucky. I'm just like, I don't know. It just floored me to kind of like think about that from a different, that I never would have imagined in some respects. But I mean, the urban service boundary, obviously it's there to help protect the culture and the horse farm aspects, right? Kind of one of the main points for it, right?
Correct. And also ways to make, going back to talking about sewer, if you can have density, that's going to be better for infrastructure. So when you have more dwelling units per acre, more people per acre, that means you can build a larger pipe. That doesn't mean you have to run a small pipe three more miles down the road just to service 30 people.
Yeah.
So that's one of the purposes of it, but it's to protect the character of Lexington that makes us great. Yeah. And there's a task force right now in the city that has been tasked, and they just had one of their first couple meetings this month, but they're looking at what characteristics of land. There's job centers. Is this a historic or cultural thing? Is it Keeneland?
Yeah.
That should never be touched. But you think about things out the Athens, Boonesboro.
Yeah.
If we can get...
Which has always surprised me, how close to the interstate it was, and there was like nothing there for the most part.
Well, check out Blue Sky Parkway. So where Elliott Electric is, Studio 46. Keep on going back in there. There's light industrial and flex space that just keeps on going and going and going.
Really?
It's one of the best hidden gems for light industrial in Lexington. But
because it's nice because it's right by the interstate, which is why probably is there anything outside of like more of an industrial thing that you know of planned for that area? Obviously, you've had growth out towards the Jacobson Park area with more and more neighborhoods type of thing. I could see that continuing to grow towards the interstate, but I mean, anything that you know about for that area?
I don't. Nothing that I've seen on.
I think we talked about some of it's just private farm stuff still out there between there and Polo Club / Hamburg area, right?
Yeah. So there's talking Athens, Boonesboro, Richmond Road corridor.
Yeah.
The soccer folks have actually bought some land out there, and they're planning on I think a training center.
Okay.
Out there, but
not the professional soccer thing, which
professional soccer is, yes, and they do have another site that's going through planning and zoning.
Yeah.
A little bit further down the interstate towards Coldstream.
Yeah, Coldstream.
And
on the inside of.
Outside.
Or outside by Phasic Tipton?
Yeah.
Type of thing, maybe.
Yeah, it's close to Phasic Tipton, closer to Russell Cave Road.
Which I know they had launched the big video campaign of the downtown soccer stadium thing, which looked really awesome in theory, but then obviously what came out with the, Webb Brothers and so forth, and that partnership for the development that we just talked about. I'm like, yeah, that probably makes more sense for downtown Lexington as far as more living capacity and others like that we've talked about.
Yeah, and soccer's a neat culture though, where you get to parade from the bars up to the game, and that leads to the game day culture. Nashville's having some issues with their soccer team being out in an old industrial park, but also being really close to, it was a borderline industrial that they upzoned, and then some residential there. It's not close to the bar, so they're busing people in, which is interesting.
Okay.
But
I'm actually not familiar with where it did go. But yeah, that leads to initially, again, back to planning and kind of,
Yeah, if we can
it's interesting.
Plan communities that have everything you need to live, work, play in, that's going to be the best thing, instead of segregating it out to where you have...
I'll be honest, I still don't know how the minor league baseball has kind of lasted here. I mean, I love minor league baseball, but I don't know of anybody that goes there anymore.
Well, and sports are an interesting thing that you have to have density. You have to have this ongoing interest. One of my favorite minor league baseball teams is the Savannah Bananas.
Yes.
They make it an experience where...
if you don't know what we're talking about, go look it up on YouTube. It's kind of like the Harlem Globetrotters of baseball in some respects.
And it's incredible. And their owner has done such a good job of creating that experience. It's the experience economy, that we are moving away from just needing a place to work, but needing an experience that leads to a productive work atmosphere. Or we don't just want coffee that we can get from Speedway. We want to have the coffee experience sitting in a leather chair at Starbucks. Mm-hmm. So same thing with baseball. You go, you get to watch an entertainment experience, and that's one of the things that Savannah Bananas do. It's a neat thing. But
which, to that point, actually, I think is what's been very cool about, and maybe you can, maybe you agree or disagree with this, but more of a rise back to the small, the downtown. It's like people kind of went away, especially in Kentucky, or at least, but this away from the small downtowns, et cetera. And it seems like now it's kind of going back to more of that experience culture aspect. And downtowns all over the place in Kentucky are being kind of revitalized in a lot of ways, which is really cool and neat to see. Versailles, I know, there's a lot going on there. Bardstown's awesome if you haven't been to Bardstown with that. I mean, it's such a cool, unique small downtown experience type of thing. So I can see how anything to speak to about that, or specific examples outside of that.
Downtowns are always going to be a bit of a safe bet for real estate investing, because it's truly center. There's always going to be the attorneys. There's always going to be the insurance agents. There's always going to be the people. If you can make the lifestyle aspects, the amenities, amenity-rich atmospheres that lead to that experience, that's going to make a downtown excel. And that's what Versailles is doing. They have a visionary that started with a coffee shop. Now there's going to be a micro hotel with a micro distillery there, or a boutique hotel with a micro distillery in it. It's neat.
Oh, there's going to be a distillery in that?
I think so. I think I saw it on one
Could
of
be.
those.
I mean, it's the distillery district.
It was like Crowd Street had some sort of investment opportunity for seed money into that for Versailles. It was neat, but that's
yeah, sorry, yes, yeah. I know the people kind of working on that a little bit,
but it takes a visionary, and that's what downtown needs is something that create that kind of atmosphere.
Yeah, a lot of exciting stuff. So I mean, that's Manchester, the park. Obviously, you were involved a little bit with the city center. Now that that's finally off the ground, I think definitely a lot of people are grateful that that's finally finished. I know there's some more stories behind the scenes of the length of time it took for that one to happen. But anything as far as, I mean, that's been cool to kind of see that take off as well.
And what say like a city center needs is other developments to complement it. Where you go to Keeneland Mercantile and you may not find what you're looking for, and you can pop next door and find something. And so we as a city need more like uses near each other. So you can say, oh, well, if I didn't find something over at this shop, I can pop over to Keeneland Mercantile, or I can go over, say, well, this restaurant was closed. I'm going to go pop over and get a burger from Sawyer's. Yeah. We need a lot of...
Which Sawyer's is coming back, I think, right? Maybe?
I think they are.
I think I've heard rumors of that. It was a sad day when Sawyer's closed for me, type of thing. I ate there a lot. When I used to work at the Central Bank in college downtown.
Well, and Jim delivers an experience.
Yeah.
He knows your name.
Yep.
It's a fun...
100%.
It's like a Fuddruckers for Lexington. It's incredible.
Yeah.
So you go for the experience. You don't just go for the food.
Yeah. And the food has come around a long way too. I mean, I think that's a part of that culture aspect too that has really evolved in Lexington as far as the food scene and doing burger weeks or taco week, or I feel like we have a week for everything in some respects now, but that's a cool aspect of it.
And it's community organization. I think that's the thing that we keep on getting point to. It's not just the built infrastructure. It's not just a building, but you're developing places, place making. You're doing things that bring humans together to then create a community.
And part of that growth in community and expansion, obviously coordinated with the urban service boundary, it seems like obviously Hamburg was kind of the first start of things as far as growing towards the interstate. Because obviously when I was a child, I mean, there used to be a horse farm. I mean, again, the interstate was considered a bit outside of town in a lot of ways, right? I mean, it was basically just horse farms for the most part, and or different types of farms. And now we're seeing that expansion closer and closer, or where the interstate's going to be kind of in the middle, and probably who knows how long. But I can see a point in time where the interstate's kind of, it still has a little bit of feel of like going around the city, but I could see a point in time where maybe it doesn't feel like you're going around the city if you've not been here, like, where there's things now on both sides of the interstate as it's being pushed out further and further.
Yeah, and Hamburg's boom was in about 1997. So you go back and look at some historic photos, and that was when they were like, we're going to change what this is going to be from a farm to a commercial center. And we haven't had a boom like that for a while. And whether that's because of financing or land use or whatever, it's a lot of different things. But it's neat.
I think it's rapidly picked up on how many people are moving to the area, which has evolved now and press that pedal again.
Which we as Central Kentucky have to make sure we capitalize on. There's one of my favorite things I've heard is it's not if we grow, it's how we grow. And we have got to make sure that we can retain as much talent in Lexington that then can catapult us up. Because it's not just the housing units. We need people.
Yeah.
We need smart people. And the thing about it is half of Eastern Kentucky comes to Lexington just to go to the mall.
Yeah.
A lot of them dream about moving here.
Yeah.
People come to UK and stay here.
Yeah.
So we have a lot that I think we're forgetting we get to enjoy because we've just taken it for granted for so long. But
which is to that point, I mean, it's been cool because you got the DevelopLex podcast is there in Awesome Inc., which is, if anybody doesn't know, Awesome Inc. is really cool as far as that entrepreneurial, especially in tech and growth of business and programming and all that kind of stuff is really on the forefront of downtown Lexington of kind of creating that culture or startup companies and so forth.
We have a lot in Middle of America for the tech companies that I don't think people realize.
Yeah.
We have a mobile first CRM based out of Lexington that is going to help real estate agents track how they do all their financing, how they do their pipeline. It's incredible what we have. And
it's on my list to add to the podcast. I'm waiting for it to get a little bit further down the road here.
Oh, check it out. Simba their launch was incredible to see. So
when did it launch? Is it already launched?
It's launched. It's live.
Okay. Was that recent?
Pretty recent, yeah.
Okay. We just had coffee like a couple months back, so maybe I wasn't aware of how soon it was launching. Different conversation for a different day. But I mean, that's where a lot of my real estate, I mean, I'm kind of in planning for that, with realizing that it's growing out towards the interstate in that sense as well. So it's going to be interesting to see where that goes, see where Clark County goes. I think that's one of the ones that's like, I'm kind of watching to see what happens. I think that's a prime spot. This is so close as far as interstate wise. So
all of them are so close. You have people that drive to Richmond both ways. People to go work at, say, the depot, or people that live in Richmond come to Lexington. You have people in Winchester
that's true. And as we grow out towards the interstate in Lexington more, that's going to create even more jobs there. So those living in those towns will only help those towns grow even more in that sense too, because there'll be even more people that want to, or make it easy to commute, even since a lot more development will be right around the interstate. So it's interesting. It's fascinating times here, exciting times, and that it's really cool that you've been able to kind of be a part of a lot of those aspects and seeing it.
Yeah, regionalism is the next big thing for success. So that's as a city, we recognize that, and they're moving towards that. When say there's a new company wanting to put a factory here, you say, well, Lexington has the amenities you want. Winchester has the land that you want.
Yeah.
Our entire MSA has the people that you want.
Yeah.
And that's going to be what drives.
You start thinking of Lexington more as central Kentucky. Like, people just thought of Lexington as Lexington. Now when you think Lexington, you're really starting to have to kind of include, which is a good thing, you know, Richmond, Georgetown, a lot of the, where, you know, it's expanding well beyond just the Fayette County lines itself when you think of Lexington now.
That's what Louisville Metro has been doing for a while.
Yeah.
You say you're from Louisville, and you could easily be from Oldham County or from Simpsonville or Shepherdsville, wherever. So,
how is the county, by the way, as we kind of wrap this up, on when it comes to rezoning or redeveloping areas, or I've had some things in my head sometimes as far as a vision, or what if I did this? How open have they been to those ideas, entertaining those, and potentially getting things rezoned in certain ways for certain things?
Well, and one of the things, to take a step away from just an episode of rezoning, when we get to do the comprehensive package, all of the planning and zoning listens to thousands and thousands and thousands of people through On the Table, saying this is what we want Lexington to look like. From there, they're able to step back and say, well, this is how we can get there. So the planning staff is incredible at seeing a vision that a lot of people, honestly, a lot of planners, I have a city planner's heart, went to the APA conventions, went to all that. We have some incredible planners that see a bigger picture. And if you can create something that fits into the comprehensive plan, you're golden. We have people that truly want development in Lexington and see that it's quite difficult to develop here. Yeah. And they do a good job at making it easy. So we're really lucky. We as a city get to also have a planning commission before it gets to council. And that's if you don't want to run for council, or if you don't want to run for some sort of elected position, try to get on a commission. Try to get on something, because planning commission has so much power and so much ability to make an impact in your community without having to run for an office.
Yeah, that's true. It's amazing. The older I get, the more I'm like, wow, there's some, it always looked like boring kind of things, when I was younger. And now the older I get, I'm like, actually, that's really exciting, really cool kind of thing. Some of these, city council, or like you said, some of these community things like that. So that's pretty cool. Any last things as far as things that are coming about that we haven't touched on that you want to?
I don't think so. I really just think that.
So what's one of your favorite restaurants then? Being Lexington so far, there's a lot. The food scene, like we talked about, has really grown.
Standing room only. It's a bar restaurant, but you can't go just for the food.
Okay.
So there have been times where I do go just for the food, but they won't sell you the food unless you get a drink. So I'll have a drink, have it sitting there, just so I can get. It's an authentic Japanese place. You see Toyota execs there. You see people from the neighborhood there. It's close to the old North Lime Donuts. Over there in No Lie. That's.
Did they officially move that to the Gray Line? As far as
so
it's no longer in
Gray
that
Line.
little home. Okay. Interesting.
But it's up there, I think on 7th. Yeah, called SRO if you Google it. Okay. So it's truly standing room only. There's no chairs. It should be on everybody's bucket list for Lexington. That's definitely a favorite.
There's a point where I was like, I'm on top of this as far as like new restaurants, et cetera. And then eventually it was just like, it felt like there was like one a week pre-COVID type of thing for several years. I was like, eventually was like, I don't know. I've heard it's great. I haven't been there because I just don't have time to go to all these new places now. But yeah, which is a good problem to have, again, in some respects, with Lexington development and seeing the culture grow and so forth. So it's been cool. Well, outside of the food, what's your favorite part about Kentucky or Lexington?
I love the people. I love that it's a place where we can all dream and actually make something happen.
Yeah.
So as a state, people look in admiration of Lexington. That they say, well, I wish my town was like that city. Or cities wish they were like us. And I don't think people realize how many eyes are on us, where we get to set the model. And our ideas are the places, like just how I was talking about, people go to Greenville, people go to Charlotte, and take ideas back.
Yeah.
This is where people come and take ideas back to their town too.
That's interesting.
So
never thought about that.
What you all are doing, whether with cities, residential or whatever, people are like, wow, have you seen the new house like that? We need to have one of those in Lexington or in whatever that town is. And
Yeah.
people come and see, that renovation was awesome. What if we did that back home?
That's cool. Man, I appreciate you coming on the show. Everybody, if you want to, definitely check out the DevelopLex podcast as well, as far as some of those things and stories, especially as far as what's been happening and behind the scenes for many years and where things are going. Make sure you subscribe to the Keys to the Commonwealth podcast. We'll be back next week for another episode. And Ross, appreciate you coming on the show.
Thanks, Landry.
Appreciate it.
To learn more about this podcast, visit our page at keystothecommonwealth.com. To connect with Landry regarding insuring your investment portfolio, email Landry at novainsuranceGroup.com or call 859-687-2004.